Where are you? You look at an undisclosed location.
Me? Yeah, I'm in Chicago.
Oh, yeah, that is an undisclosed location.
So we'll change our lives for that.
Woo!
All right. Well, that's a way to start it. I like our colors today, though. We're very pastel. Do you have a mic, Troy, connected, or are you talking to?
No, I have a mic. I have a mic right here. I'm not sure you want me to have a mic.
Welcome to People vs. Algorithms. I'm Brian Marcy, and I'm joined by a very ornery Troy Young, and in an undisclosed location, Alex Schleifer. Welcome, guys.
Yeah.
Welcome.
It's a summer podcast.
I'm sorry you couldn't escape that drug rap, Alex. He does look like he's in jail or something.
It's a holding cell, kind of.
It is a holding cell.
That's why we did the pivot to video.
I didn't know what institution gives out peach linen?
Oh.
All right. So a really shocking, this was actually billed as shocking, something I saw about this news. Linda Yaccarino has stepped down as CEO of X. She leaves behind a rich legacy, and her departure post got a terse, no punctuation, thank you for your contributions from Elon Musk. That was, I don't know if this was a shock exactly. I think the big question here is, one, what was accomplished here? And two is, I'm interested in the sort of reputational deal.
Well, from a guy that calls the president a pedo, I think that's a nice send-off.
I mean, that's true. I think, you look, anyone who crawls into the sort of lion's cage, I think of as, I think it's very difficult for anyone to have their face ripped off, but
I can't get in the head of Elon. I don't understand why he wastes so much energy on shit that's just pure pain. Why bother? Why start a political party? Why?
He likes to do the hard things, maybe. I think that's a charitable thing. And maybe he sees that his giant life mission of making life multiplanetary cannot happen within the political systems that we have.
Do you think there's a giant flowchart which has here now, and then at the far little bubble is get to Mars, and then in between is like start a political party and agitate the existing administration, such that you might put your companies in jeopardy, and you will have to experience a whole lot of personal pain and spend hundreds of millions of dollars. Like all these boxes on the flowchart, it's kind of incomprehensible.
Well, I don't know. I mean, last time I mentioned this, I was told I had Elon derangement syndrome.
Oh, don't play the victim, Alex. Come on, you're wearing a peach shirt.
It's part of it. Yeah, no. Alex has a flowchart too.
I have a flowchart. I have a flowchart that says we're going to end up here. It's a lot of. He's obviously like a very traumatized.
No, but it's you're here now, and then there's some personal vindication on the far right, and you have a series of boxes.
But I don't think it's a series of boxes. I think he works very much.
For you,
I think he's very reactive. I think he cannot stand losing. If anything, I'm kind of respecting the courage of just going for it. I think at this stage, and it's probably getting worse as time goes by, he's just surrounded by people who egg him on and tell him it's a great idea and tell him that he's funny and that he's right. And how dare they, The
little guy. Someone Scott Galloway referred to Calacanis as the little guy.
There's probably a Jason, spitting on his shoe and
I was told that Jason has a height hang up. This just came up recently. Someone.
Does he?
Which is he's 5'7".
I was just talking character-wise. He could be 7 foot tall and still be the little guy.
No, 5'7" is respectable.
It's fine. In New York, it's fine.
Just to give Yaccarino some credit, I think she did manage to salvage some of the advertising stuff. I think she did get some of that stuff.
At what cost, right? Because I think she really went all in, so to speak, and really took a lot of hits. And I just even recently in Cannes, you can't turn off that bit, and so you got to know your audience. And she's in there saying the Wall Street Journal is worthless to a bunch of executives. I mean, who's gonna? She's like, you can't believe anything in the Wall Street Journal. And
but Brian, if attention is currency, she has an infinite amount more today than she had when she left NBC. At NBC, she was the head of ad sales that was known, in the industry, obviously, and in the ad industry. Now she's like, I looked at the tech meme headline on the Yaccarino departure yesterday, and it must have been written up in like 50 publications.
Yeah.
Like she's like a global personality.
So it was a good move, right? Like it's kind of like running for president. Running for president used to have downsides if you like got 1%. Now like you get like a cable news show or something. There's no downside to running for president anymore. And I think like taking one of these jobs and yes, maybe it's just like an off-ramp from, the ad world. But then again, the ad world will just welcome people back. I feel like it doesn't matter.
Well, if you would believe the other thing that I think we'll talk about, which is that Gen Z study, or the Ezra Klein podcast around that, one of the Kyla Scanlon quotes from that podcast was Donald Trump and Zohran Mamdani are both proof of how the ability to capture attention is power. And I do think that that's roughly true. And so for Linda, someone's gonna want her as an attention magnet. There's life after this, I think.
Yeah, Ezra Klein has made that point that it used to be like events led to attention, but now it's like attention is the point. Like it's not necessarily like events. I think Trump is the actual like epitome of this, that it's just really about if you can gather as much attention as possible. I think Silicon Valley sort of understands that with all of the shit posting on X or whatever. I mean, I assume that is the sort of strategy. I don't know if you've seen the Sean McGuire guy. He got into some sort of trouble with
Sean McGuire is a partner at Sequoia, right?
Yeah. And he's a noted shit poster, which is a very strange thing to me that's just like a regular strategy, it seems like now for like venture capitalists. I don't know, maybe we should tell AB that he needs to become a shit poster.
Well, AB's faux Terry Kawaja is a shit poster of sorts.
What do you mean?
Well, he uses his goofy, kind of comical, brand of self-promotion to generate attention.
And it's effective.
It's sort of like it's the equivalent of putting your face on a bus stop as a real estate agent, right? Like these jobs, attention is really important. And if you pull one down as an investment banker, you make millions of dollars. So you want to be top of mind for any ad tech company that's selling their product. And like for him, the way to get that is to suggest that Linda Yaccarino should become the CEO of your like Italian aperitif brand that has your company name on it.
Yeah, well, that is Terry's. Anyone doesn't know, Terry Kawaja is like the sort of ad tech banker he's a comedian too, Alex. only in this industry.
Like a professional comedian?
I mean, what is professional? We're in an UGC era. I think Terry's funny. He makes a lot of parody videos, and that's his thing. And he's used it as a top of the funnel for a business that, oftentimes is operating behind the scenes. And I think in some ways that is sort of the future. You have to have a media entity. That's why, Alex, you're here. I mean, from your undisclosed location,
Yeah.
Well, I would put one more point on the Linda thing, and it's that, Silicon Valley doesn't love sort of ad sales types. And
no, Tim Armstrong wasn't considered for the CEO job.
No, particularly when they aspire to be product people. And so, I think when you have, kind of market power like a Facebook or a Google, and you really need that, you have lots of space for that kind of partnership ad sales layer to bring in revenue. It's a nice equilibrium that you can achieve by having those people in the organization. But let's just be clear, the power in these companies, and there is sort of disdain, because I've lived it, is it's just like classic tension between the people that represent the product and the people that make the product.
I mean, I think it's also cute. working for Elon is completely different. This wasn't. But do you think this was planned? Because it was happening on a week where a lot of stuff was happening with Elon. Grok kind of went full Nazi, right? And the political party stuff. And
Yeah, it might have been just too much to take after a while. I could understand that.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I have two questions. Well, one question is how much money she made. That's what I want to know. So
What's your guess? Over
Elon
under?
doesn't pay that much. Right?
I'm not talking
Historically.
about how much Elon paid her, Alex. When they did the XAI deal, and there was a financial transaction when X got absorbed in that, did she receive stock in that deal? Does she have, has she liquidated through a secondary any of her position, and like what was her package to leave? That's what I would like to know. But anyway, that'll come out at some point.
Like
Wow.
not 9 figures? Is this 9 figures? Less? What's your sort of?
Well, my take is 10 to 20 she walked away
Oh.
with. Yeah. So, like enough
Okay.
to get to the next, square on the board. The other thing is the Grok thing is an interesting experiment. I just want to get your take and comment on it because it went full Nazi or whatever. But
I like the things we brush off in 2025.
Yeah, we do, admittedly, but I think the more interesting thing about it is Grok is a AI kind of manifestation that's unleashed publicly without you asking it questions, right? Or just as like it's very visible.
Yeah. I like how it's integrated with
like
the X experience.
It's
the
very
unhinged
cool.
X
Grok is an
It's
example of what happens if AI lives among us, right?
Yeah.
Unchecked. It's not like, I asked a private question to OpenAI and it gave me some weirdo answer. It's like Grok is there for everyone to see.
It's like R2D2. It's like, it's like by your side.
Yeah, I think it's actually, I think the execution of Grok is really quite impressive and interesting, right? Just giving kind of access on, it's way better than what Meta's been doing with its like weird AIs in WhatsApp, et cetera, which don't make any sense. Here, there's like this little character that people can bring in and pull into any conversations. And it's going to create a bunch of nonsense and drama, but it's pretty unique, right? And it's a pretty compelling feature within, and I'm actually surprised where we have seen more of that with, other AIs being able to be called out or summoned within conversations. I think it's just like an interesting concept.
Well, you know what, Alex? That's a great point. And it feels to me like it's analogous to the browser conversation. So it's when AI starts to get manifest in your use cases and in interfaces in a way that is more kind of visible and more kind of like just a bigger part of the entire, experience. Oh, by the way, I dislocated my fingers. That's why I have these problems.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Wow.
Yeah.
We'll have to get to that a little bit later.
Yeah.
One other thing on Grok, I will give it credit for. It's very fast. Like using Grok is totally different than using one of like ChatGPT with all that bullshit of like thinking. It's like, no, it's just slow. It's not actually thinking. It's just slow. Like, right? Am I wrong with this? This is like such a hand waving thing that it's like,
well, it's so funny that you criticize something that operates at like 100 times the speed of, or 1,000,000 times the speed of an analyst. And then you're like, you're so slow. Yeah. It's like the old Louis C.K. Wi-Fi in the airplane thing.
Well, that's how we get ahead.
I think Grok's, you're also using different models. If you use some of the kind of less capable models on ChatGPT, they'll answer faster if you want them to. But yeah, no, it is. It's impressive. Like they put up this AI, they made it work. It's happening. It's kind of terrifying. But I love the fact that every time Grok gives an answer that Elon doesn't like, he goes, no, that's not right. When Grok says like, actually, I think there was something about the left versus the right or something like that. Like he didn't like the political answer that Grok gave, and he just went in and changed the code, and then it turned into a monster.
Well, I think this also marks like a full retreat from advertising. That was never going to take place anyway. Everyone's operating old businesses while building the new business, but X as like an ad platform, no, it's not going to happen.
Is there a retreat? Is that what we're hearing?
Well, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like,
I think I could find some advertisers that would sponsor Mecha Hitler.
No,
Alex, come on. We're a little glitch.
It was baited into it, okay? It was entrapment.
If this was a movie and the AI was starting to talk about
I feel like
resurrecting.
when these AI agents first came out, like the first thing that journalists did, because they are psychopathic in many ways, was to try to get it to say like horrible shit. Like, I mean, that was like the first thing. It was like, oh, we have these bots. Now let's get it to do something terrible.
Yeah, it was like Kevin Roos saying the AI hit on me.
Yeah, it feels quaint nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on for a little bit. This week, this is like little known. This is probably not going to be a popular topic, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Demand media and the sort of successor to demand media officially reached the end of the line. Demand media was, in its own way, a sort of iconic internet company. It started in 2006. It was sort of between that Internet 1.0 era and what was then becoming Web 2.0. And it was started basically with a bunch of domains that Richard Rosenblatt was
right.
squatting
It's
on.
an internet company born in LA.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, but like it was taken seriously. It went public. Like he was at Sun Valley and whatnot. And it was, Ehau was literally doing like how to boil an egg content on the internet. And this was what they saw was all the information arbitrage opportunities before everyone got into the information arbitrage business. This was the sort of scruffy stuff that comes out of LA when it comes to internet information, and then is adopted like widely, right? Like, I mean, I feel like all publishers ended up with their own flavor of demand media that they just sort of didn't like to talk about.
LA was host to lots of sort of price comparison kind of companies and arbitrage companies.
Yeah. You know, I think about LA just as glamour, but it's got its scruffy sides.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, MySpace also came out of LA.
Right.
One of the demand media founders alongside Richard Rosenblatt was from MySpace. But this is sort of the end of the line. We're going to see a lot of this.
So can you tell me why? Because to me, the end of the line was like 10 years ago. But why is this?
It takes time to like work these things out of the system. I mean, demand like pivoted like anyone else several times. It became Leaf Group. You know, they tried to get into, you know, really double down on their like wellness content with Well and Good.
Live Strong.
Yeah, and you look, it's really difficult we talked about this before, and Troy, I know you've talked about it a lot. You know, just all of the dynamics that made these businesses work are different now. They're just gone. And so AI to me, and maybe we can sort of transition to this, in some ways is like a head fake. And that a lot of people, it's a very convenient thing to blame. I think we're seeing this, the tech industry is doing this with their cuts. It's like, oh, AI and all this. It's like, really? Is it really AI? It's an excuse. But I think a lot of times it's obscuring sort of how much the distribution dynamics on the internet have completely changed outside of AI. And they're going to continue to change. And all of these models are not well positioned for it. That's
I have
take.
So much to say on this.
Go.
Well, it's kind of nonlinear because I wrote it in the car while getting to this podcast that had been rescheduled.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. Were you driving?
You should do that in the car. I noticed that's the genre of video.
Crazy. My wife is a super aggressive driver.
Supposedly the sound quality is really good in cars.
Oh, I could have done it. Anyway, what I observe from this moment in working with companies and just seeing what's going on are, in many ways, a sort of return to kind of old-fashioned dynamics in terms of the importance of having a relationship with a customer, the importance of brand building and upper funnel awareness marketing. And, you know, basically the thing that's really catastrophic about the change, or catastrophic or disruptive about the changes happening right now, is it really is a reordering of distribution, and distribution is the first rule of everything in the world, particularly anything that has to do with some type of like transactional economics on the internet. But it's not just that. It's like Google was sort of stood alone, not only as hackable distribution, but as a source, as a fountain of intent, right? So anytime someone entered in something into Google, they were pretty much looking for something like, you know, best life insurance policy, or, how to get the right X for Y, right? So it was an extraordinary place for marketers. And it was also a rule set that people could optimize toward to get distribution and hack it. But what it kind of meant is, just to back up a little bit, is the internet gave media brands the promise of scale. So if you had a brand, for example, like a Cosmo, the internet took away yield, and your ability to turn a single kind of set of a single bundle of content to kind of turn that into value again and again and again through the newsstand, through subscriptions, right? Through, any other way that you might monetize IP, but it was made monthly by a group of people. And suddenly you got into the internet, and if you were only going to write about kind of, relationships and do the odd feature or whatever, or a celebrity profile, you couldn't get scale on the internet. So you had to increase velocity and frequency. And typically what happened is brands had to move into way more spaces to get that. You had to do news. You had to do gossip. So you saw this sort of expansion of topic areas. And the reason that it made sense is because you needed the scale and the volume, because yield was so bad on the internet. You needed lots and lots of page views, right? And partly also because the marginal cost of expansion was basically zero. Open up a new vertical, just put a person on it, no problem. And so, everybody was in everybody else's shit. And you have, these sort of massive overlap. And then the game became, who could do the best job of optimizing for distribution that was a one step removed from the consumer. So it was what are consumers looking for on search? We'll optimize to the engine that sets up the rules for how to get to that consumer. And now we just have to look at a very different value chain. And it's kind of old fashioned. And so the relationships that matter are direct ones. The sort of value equation means that you have to have something that's coveted or highly differentiated to get referenced or to find a way, to the consumer directly, and that you need a kind of a level of awareness that's going to put you on a consumer's radar, right? Which means that your ability to generate awareness becomes much more important. But if you look even at say an affiliate site or anyone like a NerdWallet that lived between search and handing off a transaction, all of the stuff in the middle, which was assembling information, doing kind of perfunctory reviews on credit cards, doing comparisons, all of that entire part of the value chain is disappearing to AI, right? So what it's going to do is it forces you to sort of say, how do we fill a different part of the gap? Because the truth is that there's always going to be people looking for stuff and businesses that need to consummate a transaction. And I think that what's going to happen, or certainly what I'm seeing in companies I work with, is that kind of managing the ends of the transaction, whether that's managing complex CRM on behalf of businesses, setting up call centers, really help finding unique data sets that capture pricing or consumer sentiment or expert reviews. All of these things become much more important. We don't know what the value is going to be in terms of being visible in the LLM, because it's really hard to tell right now. You can go through and test against a bunch of queries and try to figure out, well, if I had information on, say, the best IVF clinics across the country, could I actually hijack the LLM and get referenced and get high intent traffic that will actually move the needle, right? And, it's kind of hard to tell right now because these products are in a state of change where, citations that sit on the right side of Google. What we do know today is the traffic coming off of any kind of factored response from a search engine is 1/10 of what it used to be coming directly off the Google SERP links, right? So you don't really know. What you don't really know is it's kind of hard to figure out where to invest in content as a means to get distribution.
Yeah, this is actually brought up there's an entire genre of stories of inside the media's traffic apocalypse. There's been several versions of this, but there's one in New York Magazine, and it quoted a magazine editor saying, "I've never seen so much disarray in a strategic capacity in terms of where we're all pointing the boat. No one is in alignment. right now you're seeing literally every strategy going to market. I mean, that sort of rings true because, the old structures are just gone. They're just collapsing.
Well, and I'll just add a couple of things, Brian. If you were in the business of acquiring customers to transform them and turn them into an economic transaction, and Google was the place that you spent most of your money. There's lots of businesses like this, lots of affiliate businesses, lots of direct-to-consumer businesses, lots of people that just sell things, right? Then, one place that you go is you say, well, I'm going to spend more time and energy on social because there's a huge amount of attention in social. The problem with that is that you just don't have the intent the same way you do in search, right? So you have to get people's attention that may or may not be in market. You got to figure out how to convert that into something that's, a transaction. And I think that really creates it really challenges the skill sets inside a company.
Well, the tools for capturing intent on social aren't there, and the social media companies aren't excited about building.
Well, they do a reasonable job of it, Alex, but they're interrupting.
But they want you to pay for it. They want you to buy advertising. I think
because
it's
this
no
is
longer
information
earned, right?
arbitrage, is it not? This entire business, and this is the reason I started with demand, is because it infiltrated all publishing models. The demand was new at the time, and they were saying, we're going to take a unit economics approach to content, which is totally contrary to the bundle economics of traditional media. And we're going to break it down, and it's just going to become about the math. I mean, this is something our friend Neil Vogel talks about. It's like, we're going to have the unit cost of creating that content low enough, and we're going to know what the programmatic rates we're going to do, or the ad sense rates, and we're going to have an idea about the volume we're going to be able to generate off of this content, and then over time, even with the decay, et cetera. And it brought this kind of Moneyball approach to publishing that, I think About.com was all about, and that ended up becoming Dotdash Meredith. And a lot of publishers, tell me if I'm wrong, we're sort of into this, right? I mean, this was good. It was reliable. Social's not reliable.
That's the thing. What we're talking about here is like the constant devaluation of content, right? Where all of a sudden, it used to be, decades ago that there was value in the content. There was value in the people writing the content. You could only get this content someplace. But as we moved on to the internet, the impetus became about devaluing and making content cheaper and cheaper so you could reach bigger scale. And it started creating an environment where content is just constantly becoming cheaper. It's going to go to zero, right? I mean, AI is going to accelerate that. And so therefore, all these traditional companies that used to be in the business of selling content that had value to people are just now saying like, well, our space now is in distribution and connecting customers. So, but the tech companies and the platform companies are way better at you at distributions. They're way better at you at logistics. They're way better at you at all of this stuff. So you're trying to make yourself a little space here between Amazon and Meta. And what are you doing?
What am I doing?
No, what I'm saying is like,
what is one doing?
The one thing you were good at, content media companies, was creating content, accessing talent, maintaining that talent, giving them the infrastructure to create content. The investment in that has gone down and down, I mean, objectively. And then the focus has been more into saying, well, the money is all in at this side at the end of the transaction. But that's already optimized.
Well,
to
the truth
like,
is,
you're not going to get in
doing
there.
things like wiring, fragmented supply like law firms up to demand sources has been, Google hasn't done that very well.
But Google hasn't done that yet. The idea of a nerd wallet existing is kind of this transitionary point in time where we say, well, you used to have experts, but then we had these kind of sites that conglomerated, aggregated content, and Google would like tap into those. The idea, the end game for these folks is that they don't need a nerd wallet. They don't need an eHow. They don't need anything like that. They're just going to go tap you straight into the content.
My point is that if you are going to exist as nerd wallet, you better have some type of, it's really, content and data set are sort of used interchangeably here, but you better have something that is unique and has high utility to the consumer. And you better be able to help small businesses connect to demand sources with tools that facilitate transactions at the bottom of the funnel. But the other thing, and I think you've made this point on the content side when you talk about commoditization, Alex, is, and we're seeing this, we saw it in this new Gen Z study from Jigsaw, but I think we see it kind of more visibly now because AI is a really good interface facilitator for really disparate information sources or fragmented information sources. So UGC, like forums are kind of nasty, right? They're hard to navigate. They're not for civilians. What happens, I think, is that AI makes much more of content as public sentiment or user contribution available in aggregate to average people. If that
that Jigsaw study was really interesting because I feel like we're all trying to figure out like what the new patterns that will emerge. I did a dinner last night with a bunch of product executives.
I thought you were out of the
publishers.
dinner business.
No, I'm in the bit. Are you kidding me?
It's hard to get out. One last job.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I keep saying, and we say on this podcast. Wait, what is yours? Is that an insult?
Yes.
Shit.
It's just, like the criminals that was about to get out and he just does one last job.
Oh, okay.
That's the last big one. That's the last big one.
It's like Ocean's 11.
We got Taboola sponsoring. It's happening in Soho.
In all honesty, I really enjoy the dinners because it's getting together a group of people for an informal conversation about a topic. We do it end to end. They're very good. People enjoy coming.
We didn't want to turn this into a commercial break.
I think we're going to have to.
Anyone who wants to talk about it, just go to partnerships.therebooted.com. Seriously, that is the link. But no, this came up repeatedly about like trying to get ahead of consumer expectations. And I feel like publishers right now, and I think a lot of companies are sort of in this period of stasis because you have no idea how much things are going to change. I'm always struck by nobody can give me a coherent answer to what does your business look like in 5 years? Like literally nobody can give me an answer to that.
And tell me if my point is, stupid. I hear a lot of
Troy, that's your job.
what these media companies are doing is they're pushing the fight further and further towards that last mile of connecting a customer to a product, managing the transaction, et cetera.
Or going to the top of the funnel, Alex.
That's what I want to say. But I think that last mile stuff, that's a really hard place to exist in because you're fighting in a game that is entirely rigged against you because the browsers are owned by other people, the platforms are owned by other people. They're not even letting you put links into it. If you think that in 5 years you're going to be asking Google what credit card should I get, and it'll send you to NerdWallet, you're insane because why leave that money on the table, right? Why leave that money on the table when content essentially has been pushed to a place where it is freely available? It just needs to be editorialized in a way like everything's on Reddit. Essentially, my hypothesis is every answer you've ever won in life is on Reddit already. It's just insufferable, right? But instead, the one thing that we're seeing, there's still I want us to be talking about more how do we create content of value, right? Like Hollywood's trying to figure that out. I mean, they just did a Jurassic Park and we're noticing that, some actors can still draw an audience, right? So these people still have power. Like that Kara Scanlon person that was on Kyla Scanlon, she has Scanlon. I have a lot of trouble with her. And I've listened to a lot of her stuff. She's building something of value. And I'm seeing these. Is there a place for media companies to say well, how do we create content that is valuable?
Okay, but Alex, I mean, you want me to now jump in and criticize you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying.
This is baby stuff. We know this. We know this.
But then we're seeing baby stuff is
but publishers haven't done a lot of the baby stuff, honestly, over the years. They haven't. I mean, everyone's talking about being audience focused, but then they admit that they're not really. They haven't.
Where's the good stuff? They're saying we're going to connect. Maybe the future is that you can buy these shorts through our website. I'm not going to do that, dude.
I mean, do you know what came up
buy the shorts?
At the dinner last night? It was okay, how are you using practical cases of AI to solve business challenges? Okay, go. Big publisher at table said, well, we're so reliant on Apple News and Google Discover that we publish these 4-sentence, this is what happened on Love Island, or no, this is what Gwyneth Paltrow said on the Call Her Daddy podcast. And we're using AI in order to churn this stuff out even quicker and grab the traffic off of Discover because they're so reliant on Discover. And, And then on the other hand, there's talking about, okay, we got to be audience first. We got to build direct connections, but you got to operate the old business while you're building the new business.
Yeah. Brian, would you mind doing the audience a favor and summarizing? I don't know if you can do it, but what like a couple of the high level observations were from that Gen Z media habits thing?
I think the big one for me out of it was that Gen Z's relationship with news is completely different when it comes to trust. The thing that stood out to me was that they skipped to the comments.
Yeah.
For in order to decide.
They read the headline and skip to the comments. Okay, so that's let's put that in the canon, the Alex canon.
This also came up. Actually, Alex got name checked twice at the dinner last night. Troy, you weren't name checked at all. So Alex is building his, he's not important. He's not important. A formidable foothold.
Alex is a waste of space.
Formidable foothold.
I genuinely think that when anonymous banker is on, he provides more insights than I do. I'm literally just a foil, and people are going to get tired of it. It's good to change it up. By the way, I wanted to add this: that research about how Gen Z absorbs news, which is headline comments, is 100% the way I read the news.
Yeah, you're the future, Alex.
I read the headline, I jump to the comments in Reddit, and then I might read the article.
You know what else strikes me about that, Alex, and I think you do this as well, which is that we think about, as media professionals, or old ones at least, we think about lines between media types. There's text, there's video, there's audio, and there's professional, then there's UGC. And I think for anyone raised in this kind of smorgasbord that is the internet, it all blends together.
It all does. Yeah.
And the media types that that they kind of embrace is kind of a mixture of images, video, and type that you can scroll through really quickly. And it's kind of a format, I guess it's a format born of like Instagram and TikTok and stuff that media companies have sort of embraced, but not on their own platforms, on other people's platforms. But I think that's a big difference, which is the format has changed.
But also, like, if you think about it, like, publishers gave up on comments too. Like, I mean, Nick Denton was onto something, obviously, with Kinja in retrospect, right? Like, and they gave that away to the platforms. And so the experience of arriving on publishing sites is incredibly static. It's not participatory at all. And then you take, no wonder, like, everyone operates like downstream of the quote unquote like institutional media because they do the like reporting and stuff. And then people just leech the value off it. I mean, that's what podcasting is built off of.
Yeah, well, it just strikes me that paragraphs upon paragraphs is really an outdated mode of communicating. And also that there's a type of sit back, sort of almost TV-like consumption that exists on phones that is kind of scan mode, where you just look at stuff, but it's not like you don't read the article. You just kind of zip through it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a the equivalent, I suppose, of consuming news as at 6 p.m. in the old days is finding breaks in your day and just sort of skimming through stuff.
We're also seeing that kind of the data coming out of YouTube also like kind of goes against this thing that people are just watching 6-second videos, because a lot of the growth is in like much longer videos. Some of them are quite heavily produced. People jump around. I mean, I pay for the New York Times purely because I can listen to the articles on it. But my preferred way of reading news is kind of is on Reddit. And it's funny because I was looking at that and I was thinking back, like a lot of the behaviors today, which is these smaller chat group based around friend groups and interest zones and forums that kind of give you community context based on articles, etc., is very, very early internet. It's like 1997, 98 internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all back to the future.
I think like it took a while, but it was like we were doing things in a way that was actually, and even like, feed readers and stuff like that. It was
Bring
all
back
about
Google
that.
Reader. It's time. It's time.
I do think on the content thing, because I'm pretty sure like some media executive is going to be listening to this and then yell at the team to like, we're sinking, let's put all our money into comments. Comments are really hard to do on an individual site. I think you really need the scale of a platform like Reddit to reach a comment population that allows you, because comments are much more useful when they're part of the algorithms. I know that I see comments that are
but like, live blogs are coming back. There's a lot of people are having
live
success
is huge.
in live streaming. And this is why my lifelong goal of, reinventing the webinar continues. And it's going to continue into the fall, because I think that once you move past the label webinar, all it is an interactive live stream programming at the end of the day. I know, like, I'm going to be talking with Daniel Halleck about the Free Press, this live streaming strategy. They're getting massive numbers, and then they're converting them into paying subscribers, because paying subscribers can ask questions. And that to me is like the path of, and a lot of these organizations need to change that, particularly like, writer, like, you got to be in it. You got to be out there, like, talking to people. That's why I like the dinners, Troy.
Well, isn't this the thing though? Like, instead of like, if I hear media company talk about like, what are we talking about, like conversion or distribution or whatever, the conversation should be 100% around audience, right? An audience that is earned and not gained through an SEO or like traffic.
I know, but everyone has bills to pay. And like, you have to operate the old business.
Just tell them that at your next dinner.
But so you split the company in two, and well, baby stuff, man. I mean, I'm sorry, I talk to a lot of these people. They don't have art in their soul. They're transaction people.
Art in their soul. They have SEO in their soul.
Yeah, but that's the problem, baby. SEOs. I don't want to be mean. I just think that like earning and building an audience is the most valuable thing you can do today. That audience will be loyal to you. And I think that if you're focusing on fighting the fight that is around distribution or the transaction layer or everything like that, you're fighting. There's moats upon moats upon moats that you have to fight. There's like the operating system wants some of that money. The search engine wants some of that money. And tech companies have shown you time and time again, if they can take a slice away from you, they will.
Yeah.
They will. Google doesn't care about links. If Google could destroy the link, they wouldn't care.
Yeah, and they're in a titanic battle. I want to talk about this a little bit and move this into the browser level, because I think right now a lot of people in the media industry are obviously focused on the changes that have gone on to search. But search is not the only commanding height of the information economy. Search is relying on the browser. That's why, Google was cutting those massive checks to become the default for browsers.
20 billion, baby.
That's why they built Chrome. It wasn't just, let's do a little 20% project, because they wanted to control the distribution. And now we're seeing, the AI fight move to the browser level. OpenAI is readying its browser, and Perplexity now has a browser. And this will, to me, I think it's just like ChatGPT. It's going to present a sort of orthogonal challenge to Google, and they're going to have to adopt a lot of those changes, whether they want to or not, with their business model in Chrome. Yeah. Alex, what's going on the browser level?
Yeah, can I, first of all, like, just to caveat it, because people are getting confused about that, a lot of these new browsers are going to be built on Chrome's infrastructure, right? Chrome is open source, so anybody can do a fork of Chrome or Chromium and build their own browser and add all sorts of features on top of it. The Art browser is one of those. So you will still hear that a lot of these things are technically Chrome, but the Chrome that Google cares about is the Chrome that it controls, because it's basically a gateway to Google search. So everybody's going to try to push the fight upwards. I mean, you see OpenAI trying to do that thing with Johnny Ive, where this is a direct attack on the actual operating system layer. If we can be the first thing that you see, then we can maybe fight Android and iOS, because Android and iOS are going to have the button you press and you get their assistant, but they might try to supersede that. That's going to be a very, very hard fight. The much easier fight, or the much more feasible fight, is the browser, because actually what we've built is like both content and utility is available over the browser. You need the browser because has all your logins. So if you want agentic stuff to happen, it's really hard to happen in the cloud, which is what some people have done, and have that stuff running there, because the sites, etc., just like, want to make sure that you're connecting from a specific IP and the cookies are being managed, etc. So if you have a browser in your desktop or on your phone, you're essentially logged in. You can ask the AI to do stuff on your behalf. And that's the future for a lot of these companies. And that's the way that you have an in. Because once you have that, then you're essentially kind of tied into somebody's life in a very meaningful way. In the past, it's been very hard to get people off Chrome. And in part it's because, Chrome has been pushed by Google search. It was kind of something that people weren't paying attention at the time, but they just let Google search push people to Chrome. So the Perplexity one it's agentic. It's very much still like a lab project. It's pretty slow. It doesn't work really all that well. It has a lot of safeguards. But if you can imagine, if you wanted to, blast everyone on your LinkedIn a little personal message about one of your dinners, Brian.
I'd love that.
Yeah, you could just technically add your thing and it would just go into your LinkedIn, take over your browser and send everybody a little private message based on past conversation. This is the type of stuff. So once you start thinking about hey, if I could do that, if I could tell a machine to act as an agent on my browser, there's literally nothing I couldn't do, really. You can access email, it can do all these things. It's not there yet. I think it'll hit a lot of issues and it'll hit a lot of safeguards, but you can see where it's heading. And once your browser becomes just an AI agent for both content and utility, it's going to be hard to move away from that. I'm surprised that OpenAI doesn't have something yet or hasn't bought a company like the browser company that does Arc, because that's the biggest way, the fastest way into somebody's life. These tools are really powerful and there's some interconnectivity, but when we think about it, it is we're at the baby level right now, where you kind of go into ChatGPT and then you go into his email and then you might have Gemini ask a thing, and they're not fully integrated. Gemini can integrate itself pretty well into your Google stuff, but I think once you get to the browser level, you're playing a different game. I suspect that Google is not doing that because it's also very dangerous and it's likely to cause a bunch of pain as these projects get out the door.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's technology that can be managed, technology changed by just sort of incrementing your product, and then there's stuff that's disruptive. And I would say that AI is disruptive to the browser. And I think that what I find is I try all the new browsers and then I just go back to Chrome. And I go back because none of them are really that much better.
And browsers are very sticky. It's hard to get people
they're
to
really
switch.
sticky. And because so much of my sort of personal information is managed by Google, so it's convenient to have Chrome as a point of connectivity to Docs and to Gmail.
Although the original browser Netscape did get displaced because it was upstreamed by Microsoft.
Yeah. Famously.
One of the things that I would say is that this browser innovation is showing, I think, increased velocity in development assisted by AI. Because, even though they're built on Chromium, they're, to look at the speed of product releases at Perplexity is something that I've been very impressed by. They release a lot of products. And to look at the speed of products released by OpenAI is just to see a really high velocity company from a development perspective. And I think that's changed a lot. You have to ask yourself, why has Safari's been around for how long, Alex? 10, 15 years. Why has it really, not changed much?
I can tell you why.
Okay, why?
That's very, very good. Well, there are two reasons. Number one, Apple's current product lifecycle is that they have these big yearly releases. They manage it as part of their marketing. They're usually tied to hardware releases. So software and hardware are very interconnected. And so they've never really been a company that has this kind of velocity of pushing stuff out. Then they're also very careful and they can't really release, or they don't really want to release things that kind of
They're incomplete.
might cause some controversy. Thirdly, I think most importantly is Safari. They are not incentivized to make Safari much better than it is today because they're entirely incentivized to push everyone through the App Store. The App Store is the money maker. Safari is not. So Safari has always had baseline features. I mean, even a lot of the smart apps that you could run on your browser and put a lot of the stuff you can put as an icon on your little, phone, and it would just load a website. But all of that stuff is kind of, nerfed, as they say, where the features aren't quite there to make it as compelling, even though they could, as compelling as running an app. Man, you're going to make 30% on everything. Why would you?
I got it. When I envision a browser because I find more and more of my time is on ChatGPT, I'm more and more reliant, for example, on their folders functionality that allows me to set up different projects with some amount of memory and document repositories integrated into those projects. If I could imagine that functionality, as well as my personal information and some memory and an ability to manage a kind of agentic flow, right? It doing things on my behalf inside of a browser, I would switch. I think it's a moment that I would look really, if it's a good product,
I think we're going to hit a lot of these moments where people will see something or somebody doing something and say, oh, this might be worth me switching.
But it also doesn't have to switch that. Like just getting 15% share, right, will put pressure on Google to change. I mean, look, the Reuters story about OpenAI's browser says it's designed to keep some, that's doing a lot of work there, user interactions within a ChatGPT-like native chat interface instead of clicking through to websites. Go figure. And that is just going to put pressure on Google to follow suit, right? I mean, they're not going to change. It's just going to be the same with like AI overviews, and they're going to end up following suit.
I think it's so hard. I think the one thing that's holding back, I mean, there's a bunch of things, but the one thing that's holding back a company like Google, similar to Apple, is that they're too big and too integrated into people's lives to do stuff that is too risky. Like those smaller companies don't have those shackles.
But they'll put pressure on Google to change.
Sure.
Well, that gives them permission to change.
Yeah. It gives them permission to change, which it did with the chatbots, right? And then I think it's relatively trivial for Google to just upgrade your Chrome and all of a sudden, like, it's just an AI Chrome, right? Like, so even this stuff is going to be hard to do, but everybody's trying.
Yeah.
I do have a hard stop. So
yes, we got a hard stop. We got to get on to good product. Can I do just a quick Andy Rooney thing on this?
Yeah, hit it, Andy. Yeah.
All right. So Google is putting Gemini. They clearly have some OKR for every single person in the company to shove Gemini into like any surface or crevice that they have. And of course, it's all over their Google workspace, right? And then I get an email from them. I get these regular emails. Your pricing is changing. Okay, first of all, it's not changing. It's not going down. It's going up. Okay. And the reason is because of all of the added value of these AI features that they've shoved into every single crevice that I do not use and did not ask for. And if it's so valuable, why don't you just give me the option? Like if it's so valuable, why do you have to like just hike the prices and then use AI as an excuse?
It's telling, I think, of how expensive it is for them to run these things, that they're being so aggressive, right? Google would keep features for free for years, right? Famously giving you a gigabyte of data, right? They are bleeding money running these things, and they can't afford to just charge the people who use them heavily. They need to charge all of us to make it worth it. Which is why I think, like, you know, like the cost of that, like, there's a lot of tension, a lot of pressure from all these companies, like, to figure out how to monetize this thing a lot quicker than other features that they might have had. And so that's why we're
doing it on
seeing,
the back of small businessmen like me that power this economy.
I mean, we've got like at least 20, 30% raise prices on all our services because they've added AI features we never use. Like we just use Claude, which we pay for separately. So yeah, it's absolutely correct.
I think my early AI prediction, it's going to be the mother of all upsells.
I mean, like
that money, the people are going to have to make back that money, and so they're just going to keep raising prices.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's bring it back to maybe something a little bit more summertime and poetic. One of the nice things about summer is flowers in your garden and in pots and such around the house. And we're part of a flower CSA. Do you know what that is, a CSA?
I know CSAs, yeah.
So you get flowers every week?
What does that stand for? That's like cooperative, like something that's like they're agriculture co-ops, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, we get a fresh batch every week, and they're always beautiful, and they're grown on Shelter Island.
Oh, it's like a subscription box.
Kinda. But the thing about flowers, you guys, is that they're really important because they're fleeting beauty, right? Like they expire fast. And so what's important about them is that you enjoy them while they're, you know, beautiful. And it's much like enjoying time, right? Yeah. Like enjoying flowers is about enjoying the moment.
Time the brand or time?
So that's my good product, because we have so many flowers in our house right now and so many in our yard. And you have to take time to enjoy them because they're going to die soon. And that's an important reminder.
Yes,
because
when they
it's a
start to fade, can you
That's a
then
lovely-
like sell them to private equity or no?
You just dead.
Yeah, then they become potpourri.
Yeah, there you go. That's like the SEO glue factory for
Exactly.
Right.
They end up like potpourri in your
potpourri
bathroom to mask out poop smells. Which is the exact perfect analogy. So we brought it back around. I love flowers, Troy. I'm constantly, we're planting lots of
It
flowers.
is a good
in our
reminder
garden.
that there is a life cycle for everything on.
Yeah, it's just
in
the
life.
flowers are so brief. And
Yeah.
that's why they're a reminder to enjoy the
Yeah,
moment.
But
that's
they
why I
live
also
on.
hate-
They live
I
on
hate
in
fake
fart
flowers.
spray later. So
One should always have flowers in their house.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You know,
let's-
what we didn't get to, guys, is Substack. Thoughts on how that becomes, something more, or realizes its potential. I am going to speak to your CEO friend from Beehive.
Oh, Tyler. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was very interested to see Hamish McKenzie writing for a newsletter that is published on Substack or on Beehive. I think what's interesting is like Beehive has taken a little bit of a different approach. It's kind of a brand, but it's not the same with like Substack. I mean, I just think that being a Substacker has a lot of upsides, but a lot of downsides because that they're the brand at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
you're like sort of a sub brand on that.
But navigating the future of Substack is an interesting challenge.
we should do a
right?
full.
Yeah, I think we should lobby for Troy to become Substack CEO.
I don't think I
Also-
want to do that, but I think it's an interesting question because everybody says, do advertising or get more aggressive about video, or, you should be, managing, the bundle on behalf. There's lots of questions.
They haven't been aggressive enough. Have they been aggressive enough?
They haven't moved quickly enough with their product. I think there is a world where I would love Substack to. I mean, we publish now our podcast on Substack, etc. Like just their product quality and velocity could be there for people to go like, I run all my shit through Substack.
They have a bunch of half-built products.
Analytics and audience segmentation and CRM is a huge weakness.
Yeah, I mean, which should be their main strength. Like
It is a
wild
rudimentary
thing.
product in every single category that they're in. It's a rudimentary ESP that is like embarrassing compared to just regular.
And they
legacy
should also
ESP.
own some aggregation tools that make the discovery and consumption of lots of newsletters more interesting and rewarding.
Yeah,
Yes,
they should have done
yes.
this stuff already. I think they've moved
Yes.
too slowly.
That's it for this episode of People versus Algorithms, where each week we uncover patterns shaping media, culture, and technology. Big thanks, as always, to our producer, Vanya Arsenov. She always makes us a little clearer and more understandable, and we appreciate her very, very much. If you're enjoying these conversations, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It helps us get the word out and keeps our community growing. Remember, you can find People versus Algorithms on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and now on YouTube. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week. What a great episode.
A banger.
Yeah,
Yet another banger.
10 out of 10. More tension.
I'm glad we started with that tension. I think the fact that you were all
good.
riled up from your car ride kind of.
When is your lawyer coming to get you out?
My lawyer? I don't know. I'm just.
No, but you're wearing like SoCal prison garb.
I am.
It does look like
Yes.
you might have a court date. Someone, like in court, like the people who clearly don't get dressed up a lot, but then are.
I'm just waiting for my new
Dressed
name, occupation, and passport. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, do you have a passport, Alex?
Yeah, I still have one.
Okay.
Good. All right, guys.
Won't take it away from me. All right. See you later.
See ya.
Bye.